Welcome back. If you invest with us, it's like working with us from not only the projects that we find, but also how our company operates, right? So it's more about you're underwriting us just as much as we're underwriting the deal to some degree, right? So today we're going to talk a little bit more on us as a company. We just got back from Arizona, actually, from a Cardone Ventures event that we'll be discussing here today, and talking about what we learned, what our takeaways were, and kind of also how it's going to help maybe reshape how we operate from a company standpoint, which people who want to invest with us is important to know, but also maybe how it's going to change our investment ideas and our thought process, right?
Yeah, that's great, and it kind of makes me kind of think back. It's my 30 year in business this year, right? So
30 years.
30 years, but Inventure's been really around since about 2017, right?
Yep.
In some shape or form, and so yeah, we're looking at, I think the reshaping is a great way to say it. Like, we're constantly, and business is that way all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like what Brad Pitt said in Moneyball, it's you adapt or you die. And so I think, Austin, you and I put a lot of effort into constantly making sure that the company is on top of things, whether it's trends or different ways we can do business differently. But this is probably our version 4.0, as I kind of sent out an email yesterday, right? So 4 versions in probably an 8 to 9 year span. And I think that, business in general will always kind of, every 2 years, you got to kind of check in with it and go, is it going in the right direction? What am I doing? What are the things that are right, wrong, and how do I pivot from those? But it was really interesting going down there because working with the Cardone Ventures group, and if anybody watched us on Instagram, you saw us up on stage a little bit celebrating, but this process that we were going through, this platform, right? What is, in general, in your mind, what is platform designed to be able to do and help us specifically in our quest to make a better investment platform?
Yeah, so it's really like, it's basically like you're platforming your business. So you're growing it, you're scaling it, but you're doing it on behalf of, on the side of data, right? So you're taking data analytics that they and their team have done from working with hundreds of businesses, them growing their own companies and selling their own companies, and taking the things that they've learned, the things that they've done, and implementing them in everyone else's business. Because the one neat thing that you find out is, it doesn't really matter what business you're in, it's all the same, right?
Yep.
How are you effectively working from an operational standpoint, or people? How is your leadership working? How is your sales process? How is your finance or accounting team? And how is your marketing, right? Those are the same things you need in every business. So working with them, they take a dive in what we do, how we do it, and then they help us put in the right processes that they see work from the different breakpoints, right? From where you're at from a revenue perspective from a company, and what are the things that you need to be able to flourish through it and not get hit at the breakpoint and get smashed back down, right? Yeah. So, even like yourself going through it, Doug, you've been in business for 30 years, right? So you've seen it from both angles, and that was cool at the event because they were asking you questions to talk to the group, which was interesting, right? But you've built a business, you've sold a business, and now we're building a different business. So what was your takeaway from doing something like that when you've already been successful, you've grown the people, you've grown the business successfully?
Yeah, I think the takeaway that I had, the aha, was really, it's never perfect. Right? Yeah. It is a constant state of kind of repair and breakdown and rebuild. But it's interesting. It's I think more than ever now about people, right? The process certainly can be there in the framework of how you do business, but it's how do you instill in people that they can excel, right? Because if you're the leader and you're leading by trying to drag everybody along, right, that will not be a recipe for success.
Yeah.
It has to be that you're empowering your people, create the processes, create the platform that they can work in and around, but then let them grow. Let them become the leader that they want to be inside of your organization. I think that was one of the big takeaways for myself, and obviously we're trying to create a business that has the ability for us to manage the business and not be in the business, right?
Yeah.
So work on the business, not in the business.
Yeah.
Even before we left, we created what we called the IGT, right? So the Inventure Growth Team, and that's really made to be that team that's right underneath of us so that we can help them, guide them, but then let them really take over the management of the organization and the growth.
Yeah, no, totally. And even like, what we learned and what we're going to be implementing here over the next 30, 60, 90 days, what would that have done to you back 10 years ago, 15 years ago when you owned Bozer Construction?
It's funny because we've seen it now. We've been part of Cardone for maybe 2 years.
Yeah, 2-ish years, something like that.
And one of their big promotes is that they'll 10x your business, right? So come work with us, learn what they have, their knowledge, their processes, procedures, and by the end of that time frame, you should 10x your business.
Yeah.
And I think about, when I went from a $3 million business to a $10 million business, right? Certainly a 10x, it didn't happen without a lot of work and a lot of time, but it could have just accelerated that, right? That business, that construction company could have been 100x from the standpoint of what we had really going well, and if I could have applied these methods, these methodologies, and these process and procedures, the company would have been a $100-200 million company by this point. I mean, I can't even fathom how big it would be. And so applying that to our in-venture business, to our platform now, it makes it real simple to think about $100 million in real estate a year, right? Or a $1 billion platform. Those numbers were we couldn't even think about those a few years ago. And
Correct.
Here today, it's like, yeah, this is something achievable. But what I find really interesting is that with their team, they are really perfecting how to not only grow the business that you're in today, but then start to think about what are the other things that you can bring into that business? How can you augment that business? Maybe there's a company out there that's looking, they don't have any transaction plan in place, right? So maybe you're a small electrical company, plumber, HVAC, landscape, whatever it might look like, and you're going, I won't be retired in 2 years, right? I don't know what to do. Cardone is really also helping us, teach us how to start looking at those acquisitions, right? And being able to say, like, we've got a pathway we can build for that business owner today. Might not be a total buyout, might not be a cash out, but we have a basis of a platform that we can say, we know how we can transition your business so you don't necessarily lose all of the wealth that you've worked on for 20, 25 years. And they're doing it on scale that, like, I mean, they were talking about, they got a pet med company, I think, right? $600 million acquisition, and they're pretty much paying all cash for it.
They are paying cash,
So it was really, but that's what the, your belief lid, right? I could have never believed in a few years ago that I'd be sitting here talking to a company that's just acquiring one additional business, adding in at $600 million.
Yeah.
Could have never believed that we were going to talk about building a $1 billion portfolio. So with the Cardone Ventures team and that network, it has really been able to open our minds up to think about, maybe it's just not Minnesota. Maybe there's other markets that we look at expanding in as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, one of our key takeaways as we looked at it, right, was as we're growing, where should we be growing, right? Where is the money at, right? Where is the right deals at? Where is business booming, right? Where are the things happening, right? Because sometimes you get in business and you're just like, this is my area. I gotta pound the flesh. Well, with what we do from investing standpoint, we don't have to. We can buy anywhere, right? It doesn't matter. So why wouldn't we focus on understanding other markets that are even bigger, better? It might be harder to get into, but like there's people there, right? And there's people with high-paying jobs. I mean, we look at the Cardone team, right? They have hundreds of employees that are all top of the game, right? We don't see that many of those types of employees in where we're at. So why wouldn't we go invest into assets that there's that type of people that are moving to that area? Because what do you need with that? If your housing's going well, people are moving there, businesses are booming, well, you need office space, you need medical, you need retail, you need industrial space, you need all of it. Multifamily, it all grows together.
And with the platform, as we've got the venture capital platform set up today, we are very portable, right? We can today own real estate in all, just probably 50 states if we wanted to, but certainly the contiguous 48 makes it really easy. So it's really about finding those assets, and sometimes we need agents, brokers, people that are in the industry to say, hey, I've got this asset. You guys should really look at that asset, because we need a velocity, right? The velocity of investments plus investors kind of needs to balance out from time to time. And so when we look at those different markets, trying to find strategic things to go start to look at. And so, yeah, certainly, like you and I were talking on the flight back, like single tenant assets are probably something that we'd really be focused in on. Might be a lower cap rate that we're paying for it, which means a little bit higher price, but the stability and the returns.
Stability is there, right? Yeah, so it might not be it. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's nice about the Midwest, why people have always liked investing in the Midwest, is cap rates are not suppressed as heavy, right? But that also comes because there's more risk, right? Because cap rates aren't as suppressed. Cap rates are a little bit higher, but it becomes because maybe it's not as good of a business state, or maybe there's not as many people in the area, or whatever it is, compared to Arizona or any of called the warm states, right? That's kind of where everyone's moving to, which means there's just more stuff. I know I even looked at on the way back, which is just one example, but a Chipotle. I don't necessarily agree with how Chipotles are valued today, because they're all coming on so fast. I don't know if the business model works in all these little cities, but it works in Arizona, right? Because not because it's in Arizona, but because the density of people and the income is so high. So why wouldn't I go buy a Chipotle at a 5 cap in Arizona compared to paying a 5.25 cap in Minnesota?
Yep.
For a quarter basis point, why wouldn't I just go to Arizona and pay cash for that deal compared to the one in Minnesota? Because it'll be there before longer than it'll be here.
Yeah, and so we have market sector spread, right?
Yep.
Our risk, and then now we can start to bolt on geography, right? So then if you bring those two risk factors across each other, you're really starting to dilute risk in, one market gets a little bit of a cold, the other doesn't catch, pneumonia, so to speak, in how we talk about it. So I think that's really cool. I want to pivot back for a second, though. You and I talked a lot about growth personally, right? And go back to the day you walked into Inventure. What was your belief lid at that point? And flying home from Phoenix this weekend from the Cardone platform delivery, where was your brain? Like how far different is your brain today as a leader than?
No, yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I would say when I came in, I wasn't a leader by any means, right? From a business standpoint, all I knew is I wanted to make good money, right? Build wealth, that kind of thing. We don't know how. Come out of school or in school in my way. But your belief lid is not really there because you just don't have the history, right? You're not around the people that are increasing your belief lid. It's your circle's not there. You don't have the right mentors yet because you weren't ever taught to grow that side, right? How do you add mentors? How do you talk about money? How do you talk about business? Nobody tells you or talks to you about that while you're going through high school or college or anything else. But then if you fast forward to where we're at today, coming back from that plane, I mean, even the last 12 months, I think both of our belief lids have increased by a lot. And I look at it today, and us doing $1 billion in real estate and having $1 billion AUM in under 10 years is not scary anymore. Us growing a business that can scale, that we can become a $100 million company, that we can add additional services, isn't scary anymore because we understand it now, right? We know what the things are, right? If we have our people down, we have our operations down, we have our finance down, we have our sales process, and we have our marketing down within our own company, that works in anything. You can go buy any company, it will work with the same exact processes. We might lose a bunch of staff when we implement it, but we'll find the right staff. Right, that's aligned with where you and I are at with what we're trying to do with this business or that business. So it really doesn't matter at that point.
And it's interesting, you and I had a conversation the other day about wealth, right? And why it feels like in certain cases, wealth conversations are taboo. Like, oh, if I've got this amount of money, I don't even know who to talk to sometimes, right? And so wealth advisors might have conversations with people, but our role here, and what I think we've done a really good job of creating a platform of, is of safety to be able to talk about it, right? So somebody comes in and they're like, I've got a $30 million problem, or I've got $20 million I need to invest and I don't know what to do, I'm looking for advice. It's a pretty safe table here to be able to say, you can talk about that because people do have that. And I hate to say it as a problem, but our job is to help them find a solution. In fact, we just had a conversation with a banker yesterday where we said, we want to be a part of the tool crib, right? The solutions crib that says, here's your financial advisor, here's a wealth advisor, here's your attorney, here's your insurance group, whatever. And then in venture capital sits here as another part of that wealth platform that we can advise them on, bring our tax strategists in if we need to be able to help them, but be able to have open conversations about wealth.
Totally.
Right? Because, Minnesota's a little bit more of especially central Minnesota's a little bit more conservative. We know there's wealth around us, but it's harder for people to sometimes say, listen, I've got $1 million and I want to make more, right? That shouldn't be a problem. That shouldn't be taboo. It should be something that we celebrate. And we see it in other markets where people celebrate people making money. But this, our goal and what we help with, though, is so they can still quietly and privately build wealth, right? So we are not a forward-facing company when we talk about the people that are in our platform. It's a very private platform. So you're in our network. We're not flaunting the people's names. We kind of we run under a very low radar because we're talking about people's investments and things like that. But we really, I think that we do a really good job of being able to help solve that problem, but yet do it on a very private basis, right? And they have their own platforms. They can look at their investments and things online. So.
I think to me, one of the cool things, and we even saw it down in Arizona when we were down there, is our experience, right? You've grown the business, you've sold a business, you've grown a portfolio, now we're growing a company where other businesses can help grow their wealth personally or through their business, right? Whether that's us just helping from the real estate perspective or like helping from the capital side, but even more importantly, in my opinion, is that we become kind of quasi business advisor, quasi like helping groups with their money to help them build more wealth, right? I mean, look at the conversation that you had with one of the business owners down in Arizona this last week, right? Maybe talk a little bit about that, but I think the gist of it is that we can help people with more than just investing, right? Let's talk about your business. We want to hear more about it. See if there's ways that we can help because as real estate investors and as what we're doing, we have to have really good attorneys. We have to have really good documents. Because we're in real estate, we will always take advantage of whatever the heck the taxes are. Yep. Any tax things we will know from a real estate perspective because we have to. Even some business stuff that we get into from a manufacturing point. But talk about the conversations you had with a business owner down in Arizona and like how your experience helps that person, but like that's why people need to talk to us more.
It's interesting because I think I told him he owes me a case of beer if he gets us across the finish line. He'd owe me more, but yeah, it was really interesting. We were just chatting with a guy, a pre-engineered metal building erector in Waco, Texas. And that's what's really cool about this Cardone Ventures. I'll back up for 1 second. When you are in central Minnesota and you have a central Minnesota mindset, right, and you don't have a growth mindset, you don't have a belief lid that's much larger than what you ever could have imagined, you don't imagine yourself ever talking to a person from Waco, Texas. No. Or, we met another group that was doing life insurance from, I think, Miami, Florida, right? Involved with very extremely high wealth individuals and trying to help solve their problems. But what's interesting about our platform, and I appreciate your candor on that, Austin, is that, these gray hair didn't come easy, but these gray hair also come with a lot of solutions. And then adding your power, your strength of investments and advisory to it, like we can solve a lot of problems and sometimes just more so create opportunities. So I was talking to this steel erector and he's like, oh man, I'm booming this year. I'm doing, I did $1.5 million last year. This year I'm looking to do $3 million. So I'm really stoked. And he's doing some stuff with SpaceX and Tesla down in the Texas area. And I'm like, and he was kind of explaining his business and he was telling me about his rentals. And I'm like, whoa, time out. Like you're renting all of these, 120-foot boom lifts and big JLG off-road forklifts, and I'm like, buddy, you are missing the boat. Like I just said, you need to create yourself another rental company, find somebody to partner with down there that you already own some of the equipment, but it's when you bring it back to your yard, it's just laying here for 2-3 months. Put that stuff to work. And I mean, in 13 seconds.
His mind was like, well, I've been thinking about doing that, and I need to do that right now. I think he probably called the guy when he's down there.
I'm sure he did. And I'm sure today, hopefully he's watching this video even, and like, I remember him. But those are the types of things, right? That these conversations, those, you know, and who knows, you know, we may end up in Waco building buildings with him.
Never know, yeah.
Probability, he calls me at some point and says, you know, remember when we had that conversation?
Yeah.
And that's what's really cool about our collaborative platform is that we're not here to try and steal anybody's thunder or, you know, make fees off of everybody else. It's really about win-win situations. And so me giving him a little bit of advice that he goes out and builds a 10, 20, $30 million company, man, he'll remember me for the rest of his life. And someday he will call me and go, remember when? And that happens more and more as our careers go on. But that was a really cool conversation, and I hope I do connect up with him again because that network of people that are going through Cardone Ventures, it's like going to college together. Like we got college, you know, roommates and people that we've been to now that you go, hey, you can pick up the phone and go, I remember meeting me last weekend. In fact, I just got a text here about 2 seconds ago from a realtor in Phoenix, and then the insurance guys actually reached out to me last night. So, I mean, when you start to weave a network across the United States, that's the power of people. That's the power of really good people that want to grow business working together collaboratively to figure out different solutions that you didn't have before. And that's what really kind of this podcast is all about. Honestly, I appreciate you and Isaac really taking the lead on bringing this forward because it does give us a voice to people to say there are opportunities to work not only with us, but to collaborate with us, to build for us, to be subcontractors to us, to bring us real estate deals, to bring us investors. Like the pipelines are kind of just interwoven. And so I look at every person that I meet in a coffee shop or if I'm at church or I'm going out to eat, like every one of those people could be a partner, an investor, somebody that works for us. Like the Inventure platform as it grows is just an all-encompassing ecosystem that helps support people building their own businesses, their own wealth for opportunity and success.
No, exactly, and that's the power of this, right? So that's a good way for us to end on it. Really, is if you want to collaborate, you want to connect, you want to talk about business, you want to talk about real estate, we're the group, right? So reach out. That's really the easiest way to do it. So comment here, follow us, send us direct emails. You can see on our website at adventureproperties.com, there's ways to get a hold of us from forms or calling our main line to set up appointments. So biggest word for today, I would say, is just connect. But thank you for following along. Thank you for watching this, and we'll see you next week.
Have a great day.